G'day 101 Tokens listeners, how's it going? This is another episode of the Vice Optimisation series that we are creating. Today I have my two interns with me, Laura and Juyoung, respectively. G'day.
Hello.
Respectively from South Korea and Sweden, so we've got a good mix. And we've been working on some pretty cool stuff to do with Vice Optimisation and how we can get some more awareness into universities, and we'll talk about that in a bit, which is really cool. But first off, I'm just going to talk about a little bit of an ironic thing that happened just this afternoon out the front of my house, and that's that I found an empty goon bag in the gutter, which had a pretty pivotal part on my upbringing, and specifically when I was at university over 10 years ago. And yeah, I just found it interesting that someone had left half a goon bag, which is about $5 worth of wine. And for those of you overseas who don't know what a goon bag is, it's like super cheap wine that you can get for about $10 and 4 litres of it. So you can imagine it's a drink of choice for uni students. Certainly was for me when I was back at university. But I think something interesting about 101 Tokens and the fact that we have done a bit of work with some Sydney universities this year is that we were talking about topics of other vices, which came up really quick because I think as a collective of young people are drinking less alcohol, but that's not to say that they aren't doing damaging things in large quantities to substitute that. And one thing that came up when I was speaking with Notre Dame University is that the students are drinking less alcohol, but there's potentially a worse epidemic in terms of the Instagram generation and people spending way more time on their bodies. So going to the gym, pumping themselves full of different supplements and things. So that was quite an interesting thing that piqued my curiosity, and that's something that we've been talking about. So the project that we're working on at the moment, for all of you guys who are listening, is called Macquarie Vice, a little bit of allusion to Miami Vice. But we want to start a dialogue among students about the anxieties that people have when they have a deadline. So it's not explicitly for students. If any of you guys listening out there working in office jobs or any jobs where you have deadlines, you know the anxious feeling, and a lot of the time we will alleviate that anxiousness through hitting a vice, whether it's alcohol or otherwise. So I guess this conversation will be around what we think that we can potentially do when we go into the universities and how we can activate this within Macquarie, but also touching on points about other vices. So I think we'll start with Netflix, because I think the terminology around binging and Netflix has been a topic we've talked about, and it's pretty aligned with drinking. A lot of people will drink and then the next day they'll have a Netflix binge. It's basically just escapism. So does one of you guys want to talk a little bit about your experience with Netflix and how you potentially use that as a bit of escape?
Well, I think what's so dangerous about it is that you maybe go in with the intention of just watching one episode, and we've talked about this before, and then you don't even have to click a button and it will just straight away go to the next episode. And it's just so easy to just go, just one more episode, just one more, and then it's been like 5 hours. And that's not what you intended when you sat down, or maybe it was, but yeah, it's just so hard. You need so much willpower to get away from it if you are escaping something and you're trying to avoid thinking about something that is making you uncomfortable and stressed out.
Totally true. And I think you can align that with drinking as well. Like, just one more drink. And the thing with Netflix is that they're very clever, and they've worked out, their algorithms work, that they not only have, teasers weaved into the storyline to make you want to go to the next one, they also write their actual story. So when it's created by Netflix, their structures are built with that in mind. So everyone always wants to have a hook, but what I find interesting about Netflix is that they might have a hook at the start, because you know how you have those episodes where you're like, I don't even know why I want to watch this next one, but I'm going to anyway. And the problem is that like we've been talking about, you get to the end of your Netflix binge and you haven't actually reset yourself, have you? Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that one?
I think the problem is even after watch it, you never like think you're like better, like you feel better, because the anxiety just getting heavier, because the problem is not solved, just you are escaping from the anxiety. Yeah, so I think the problem is you're just you're just escaping. That's the problem.
Yeah, and you're just coming back to, you're feeling anxious, so you go and you do the thing, you hit the vice, whatever it is, and then you mask it. It's like a Band-Aid solution, and then you go, when you come out the other end of it, maybe you've watched 12 hours of Netflix, you still have the same problem, but you've only just suppressed it, and it's very similar to drinking. What do you guys think of other things that students at universities are using as vices? I know we've just mentioned potentially the gym and things, but is there anything else that comes to mind as how people are escaping?
I read something this morning, and it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to do with escaping, but it is a vice that a lot of students do, I think, and it's using like Ritalin or Adderall to enhance their performance, and they will, if you don't actually need them because you don't have, what is it, ADHD or something yet, they're very likely to give you more anxiety and maybe even depression.
So that could be quite dangerous.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, performance enhancing drugs is a very interesting topic. It's essentially what it is. People are spending a lot of money on these things. They're readily available. It seems like those statistics come out a lot more in the States, because I think there's like
It's
2
much
in
easier
3.
to get in the States. It's very, very easy to get in the States. I'm not sure how people get them here, actually, because I don't think the GPs want to prescribe, if you don't have ADHD, then you can't really get it. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like buying illegal drugs or something.
I know how you get it because I've done it. So if your friend, there's a lot of people who've been diagnosed with ADHD, and so there's there's an illegal trade, right? But because there's such a demand for it, and even with alcohol, because the pills can be used to level you out as well when you're drinking, is also another way.
It works like cocaine, but without the sort of bad effects of cocaine. It's much clearer. It's like caffeine. It's like drinking a lot of coffee. That's what it is. It's like drinking a lot of coffee, but without all the bad side effects of drinking too much coffee. If you drink too much coffee, you'll get like the jitters and you'll just feel extremely uncomfortable. But yeah, they're like, so if you're drinking and you take them, you can like keep going and you won't get too wasted, kind of.
Yeah. Is there anything that do you have a routine for when you really need to study and like get it done?
I think escaping can be anything. Like I had apparently laziness is doing nothing when you have to do something. But like procrastinating or escaping is like finding something is like exciting or something's funnier than like more fun than what you have to do. So yeah, it doesn't need to be like a bad thing. For me, I sometimes do reading a book, like instead of reading article for essay. Yeah, that's another escaping for me. Yeah, so I think it doesn't need to be the bad thing like smartphone addiction or alcohol drinking or anything.
Do you guys have any strategies that you use at the moment when you really need to focus?
Try to get rid of distractors and set a clear time plan. Say, I'll study now for an hour or 2 hours, and then I'll take a little break, maybe go for a walk, and then I'll sit down again for another hour or 2, and you make a really clear plan of what exactly you want to achieve in that time. That helps me, yeah.
How about yourself?
Or I make some steps, what I have to do, like like 2,000 essay. That's a big thing. So I make a little step. Like I'm gonna read like a bit of article for this, like for as reference. And when I get done, I'll do like write introduction 100 words. Like I make a bit, like make it a bit to make me do it like easier.
Yeah, right.
I think that's a pretty popular thing to do, to break something big into much smaller parts. Because if it's just one big thing, it feels like a mountain, and it just takes a lot of effort to actually start it. But if you think of it rather than as small parts, then it's just much easier to sort of attack.
I think we're touching on something interesting here, and that is that any type of binging, no matter what it is, can be detrimental. And effectively what a lot of students are doing by waiting till the last day of their assignment being due is that they're binge studying, or binge creating if they're putting an assignment, but if they've got a test, they're binge studying. And what's really fucked is that Netflix and SBS, I've seen ads for the SBS because they do the same stuff, is they make it heroized, or something, I can't think of what the word is, but they make it like binging isn't a bad thing. When I think binging anything is bad. Like binging on, I'm trying to think, water. Maybe. You'll probably you can flood your brain. You know what I mean? Like there's if there's someone out there in the 101 tokens community and they want to send us something that they binge on, which is completely good. Maybe meditation. Can you binge meditate? I don't know.
Yeah, because what if you need to get stuff done and all you do is just sit there and meditate?
I think the Buddhists would say that you're getting a lot done while you're meditating. So.
Maybe.
But I think the point of binging is like you have no point, like you have no purpose of it. So that's a kind of your like wasting time.
Yeah, so maybe there needs to be because there is a purpose to binge studying. You're trying to get the marks so you can get the job, right? But
yeah, it's not good though for learning.
Yeah, for learning.
It's not. Yeah, you don't learn by binging. I know that myself, just for studying, and I know a lot of I'd say probably the majority of students do this. They binge study just a couple of days before an exam.
Yeah.
And you don't remember. Oh, also, the format of the exams are not that great. It's just multiple choice questions. And so you binge learn all this information, you remember it for the exam, and if you you ask people about that information, even just like 2 days after, it's gone.
Yeah.
Because it's not a good way of learning.
Because there's no practical application.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were just discussing a mentor of mine who I don't work with directly, but he is actually redefining education. He started a company called Mindvalley. His name's Vishen Lakhiani. And I was fortunate enough to speak at the same conference as him in Croatia last year, and which sucked because we were on at the same time. But I do like to say that me and him closed the conference because we were in the last speaking spots. And he's a profound speaker, and he's written best-selling books and whatnot. But his vision and why I will always talk about the goals for 101 tokens is that 101 tokens is aiming to be the Mindvalley for vice optimization, because he is integrating the teachings that he teaches online, which is across a broad breadth of subjects, but a lot to do with mindfulness and being aware and being present and all the skills that you don't learn in school. He's putting an onus on teaching them. And what I'd like to discuss with you guys is he's implementing these things into Estonia. His wife's Estonian and he lives there for part of the year, into their actual school curriculum. So primary schools and high schools should be getting a taste of Mindvalley. But his latest project, which is called Macquarie University, the structure is that you will go to Mindvalley University for 1 month a year, but you will go with your parents. So no matter what age you are, you can go with your parents, and everyone's learning and everyone's going to different workshops, and I assume people can teach things as well. And the idea is that you do 1 month of like really in-depth learning and learning from people older than you, learning from people younger than you, rather than, like he says, the majority of people you're learning from when you're at school is the people your age, and then one teacher, or multiple teachers when you're in high school. But how are you really, like, how is that the best way to learn? And I think what he alludes to is that going back to that kind of, back in the day when we were tribes, and so we lived in groups, and like you didn't just learn from your parents, you learned from the other people's parents, and you learned from the elders. But because of the way that structures have been set up now, we don't have that kind of awesome connection. So what would you say about that mode of learning? So instead of 4 years at uni, you go for 1 month each year, but then you spend the rest of the year applying what you learn in that 1 month to the outside world.
I think that sounds really good. I think the system that we've got now, the education system, is definitely not working for everyone. I think everyone is so different. They learn differently. And this idea that everyone should sit in a classroom and learn the same way, write essays and do exams, I think it doesn't make any sense, because people are so different. And just because you're not good at academic writing doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. So I think that's a really interesting idea. I'm not sure if 1 month would be enough, but I also think that dragging it, like a degree out over 3 years with long breaks of like 3 months over summer and stuff like that, I feel like you could definitely, if you would give you the information in a different way, you could definitely get it done much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I think they drag it out by the way that they teach you now.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Laura. And like, whenever I write an essay, I'm thinking, is it helpful for my career? Like, I'm learning, but like learning at university, it will be helpful for my career, but I'm not sure every assignment and assessments are good for my learning. Like, is it just for university, I think? Yeah.
So that's why you do things like you come out and work on placement. So with companies where they get you to do real stuff. And so, their point is that like universities aren't a complete lost cause, you know, like they're brilliant. They train up our doctors but there's just such a better way for us to do things. It feels like we're still doing university degrees from when universities were invented. So it's like, come on guys, get with the times. And I think it's worth like always just exploring these things. And then the beauty of it is like, if you decide that university is the way for you and that works for you, then go with universities. But I think when we've got more options, it just makes it more exciting to be alive. So what would be...
what are the options though?
Yeah, exactly. What other options are there apart from universities?
Yeah, I don't feel like there's that many options.
Well, I think there are options for learning, like other than university, but like company or society doesn't accept, like it doesn't agree with my learning, because like I have learned a lot of things about something, but society will not accept it as a, like, I don't know.
You need to get it. You need to get like a license, or
like a license, or like,
or your degree, so you can get accepted. Yeah, totally. And I went to university for 4 years because I wanted to be a journalist, and I didn't get high enough marks, so I had to do arts to get the points to go. And I think I got a degree in, I probably got a degree in drinking goon bags and partying and not going to class, but I still managed to pass and got a really good job straight out of university at what was one of the best ad agencies in Australia, and continued to party and bend and whatever, which was fun. It was all like, you know, I wouldn't have created 101 tokens if I didn't have these experiences. But where I learned the most is I moved to London when I was 26, to do a 10-month intensive entrepreneurial / advertising course. And I didn't plan on becoming an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what one was, to be honest. I was over there to become a writer, a copywriter. And so, yeah, that course literally, as part of the reason why I wanted you guys to be on this and put yourself out of your comfort zone is that 10 months, it's called the School of Communication Arts for anyone listening and wants to learn more, put you out of your comfort zone almost every day. So we were having to get up probably twice a week at least to pitch concepts in front of the whole class. They'd bring in experts from all the biggest agencies and from startups in London to come and critique us. And for us, and basically like the setup for most of the days was we went in the morning. If we were late, we had to do something stupid, like there was sometimes nudity involved. So it was like be on time, you know, like teaching you things like respect. And then we would have a masterclass. So they'd bring in someone, and most of the time it was advertising, but then sometimes they'd bring in like a new company. And that's actually how I got my first job out, is that a company came in and they started talking about the work they were doing with Paralympians and the ocean and all these. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's cool. I want to go and intern with those guys. But back to the point was that we do this masterclass in the morning, and then of an afternoon, our classroom was in a church, for starters. It was pretty leery, top level of a church, and it was designed by us. So we designed the creative space. So our brains, it was up to us to create something that we wanted to live in and work in, and then for usually the whole afternoons, the mentors would come in and then they'd go around and they'd critique our ideas. And so we would just be coming up with ideas for businesses, solve briefs for companies. And it wasn't like a normal advertising school where they would say, here's Colgate, come up with an idea for that. A lot of the time Colgate would actually be there and they would come in and be like, they would buy our ideas. Like I made some money. I made like £500, I think, once or something from an idea that I created. And so it was an expensive course, but in 10 months I learned 1 billion times more about myself, and about embracing my creativity and like not letting, you know, pieces of paper get in the way. And the thing that school like hangs its hat on is that I think the tagline is we help students get jobs, and you didn't need to have done a degree to get in. So we had 18-year-olds in there straight out of high school, and they had to go through the process of, you know, pitching themselves, and actually part of it was to talk to the year before and get them to agree that you were a right fit for the university or college. And yeah, so we had 18-year-olds right through to, I think one of the guys was 40, but Mark, who runs it, brilliant dude, it wouldn't matter how old you were. If you were enthusiastic, he would let you in. And yeah, I feel like not so much the old people. Like old people can go back to uni. Old people listening right now. Old people can go back to uni, but like the fact that you don't need to go to some, you know, to university to then attend this college, and you can be 18 and be let in. And the fact that you're learning, the first week we did mindfulness training with a Buddhist. Like, I don't know any other ad schools that would have done that. So yeah, I think there are these colleges out there, and there are primary schools that are doing different things. There's people getting homeschooled and stuff like that, which, you know, I'm sure there's good homeschooling parents and there's bad ones, but there's alternates out there, but I don't think there's enough. And I don't think we all know about them, because our high schools are set up to get us to get the mark that gets us into the university that gets us into the job, that we go and do the job, and then half the people drop out of their job because they hate it and start seeking out things like Mindvalley. So yeah, that was a little bit of a long story about alternate options. But I guess what would you guys, because you guys are within the university structure at the moment, what would you guys like to see a bit more of at university? Like, what could the curriculums do to make it a little bit more applicable to the roles that you want to do once you leave?
Maybe more practical stuff, more interacting. We have seminars, but they're not that impressive. And yeah, less essay writing. And yeah, I do well at essay writing.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean I like it. I just happen to be okay at it. but I really still don't like it. But this last year I took 2 units where you were taught counselling, like how to counsel other people, and we would role play. So you would pretend to be a counsellor, and then another student would pretend to be a client, and then there would be a third person sometimes that would be an observer, and then you would discuss afterwards. That was really, really beneficial. So more stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, so more weaved in.
More creative ideas.
Yeah.
From the educators or the people that are responsible for educating students. They need to sit down and be creative and think of other ways to teach people.
Yeah.
Things.
I'm sure they're quite hogtied to the curriculums as well, to an extent. But yeah, I think it needs to be a systemic change that we can like start and promote and help things like Mindvalley and create new Mindvalleys and things. Anything?
Yeah, definitely more practical thing like opportunity internship, like we're doing this, and much more networking, like among students and also professors, or chance to working at university, related to your degrees, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think what would be really cool is having it integrated from the start, rather than the placement at the end.
Yeah.
So like, going out straight away and doing placements. I remember when I started as a journalist, I was like, I guess journalism, they just made you do it. They made you go and interview people. But I think more stuff like we're doing right now would be really helpful. Going out and asking communities more stuff, learning more about it, because then you'll understand if you actually want to carry it forward, and you can duck out of your degree a bit earlier. But let's talk about Macquarie Vice. So circling back around to the vices that students use and how we have started as part of your project and as part of an extension of 101 tokens to come up with a group where people can come and just have a general chat about their vices and potentially offer up some alternates. And I think one topic we've said, it would be good to have more social interactions and more networks at university. So we're out in a kids park for if you can hear the background. But that's just, that's what happens when you're on location. So yeah, Macquarie Vice, we're going to be inviting Macquarie students to join and just open up the floor and see what we can do there. What do we think could be really beneficial from opening up dialogue between students?
I read this morning as well. I think it's 1 in 5 people at university will experience like severe anxiety and low mood and depression. So just the fact that it's so relevant, I think a group of students talking about this, I think it would be really beneficial for them just to talk about it, because I think there is still a stigma around it. And then also to hear how different people deal with it. It would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, as we are international students, they have like an extra anxiety, I think. Yeah, and I think that is a really good like information or something like that for them, especially.
Yeah, we were talking about that's a good point. We were talking about when you first start university, you're not really warned about this like pressure that you're going to get squashed with. In Australia, we have like the HSC in New South Wales, which is like the big test that they make out like, if you don't do well at this, your life's over kind of thing. I don't know if they still do that, but that's shit. That's a shit way to put pressure on students. But then you come to uni and you get smacked with it all over again. And so maybe there needs to be like, what we want to work on with the Macquarie Vice project is like, how can we create a program so that when students come into the system, whether they're foreign students or whether they're coming from high schools or colleges or whatever, this is how to deal with some of the stresses that you're going to get, and here's some options, because that's what we want to create, like tools and stuff.
Like, instead of going drinking or binge watching Netflix, this is how you can deal with it.
Yeah, and I think like an open conversation about how some students are succeeding already, and then plugging in the things that the university is already doing. Like there's a wellness centre, which might be worth touching on a little bit about what we've
They're
learned
already
about.
doing a few
Yep.
things actually. I looked at that this morning. They've got an online course
Hmm.
and a few other things that
Yeah.
touch on all of this and also procrastination.
Exactly. And so we have to kind of think about the psychology behind it. So if someone's procrastinating, are they going to use an online course, or are they better off getting together with people and just chatting about it for a set time a week? Because it's so beneficial. I've been in men's circles and other circles just to unleash every now and then and just, share the vibes about what vices are irking you or what other parts of your life are irking you. And sometimes you answer the questions by just sitting around and speaking them out loud, because a lot of the time they're just locked away. And so, yeah, what would get you excited to join these types of groups, and how would you like to interact face to face?
Just I would get excited about knowing that there are other people that feel the same things that you're feeling.
Mhm.
Because one of the dangerous things about procrastination and anxiety is that you work yourself up in your head and you worry even more, and it helps if you talk to other people and you sort of snap out of it and you realize that you're not alone. So if you have a big group just talking about these things, that would be really beneficial.
And just group like that, like knowing that that group like me existing, that just supports you just itself.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of like wrapping it back around to 101 Tokens community. We probably need to have an online open discussion with no super direct concepts, because I think some people maybe get a bit scared off when it's like we're talking about binge drinking or we're talking about XYZ. I think when you open up the floor to vices, everyone has a vice. And if we even just say a little bit, like, maybe in a poster or something, it's like Netflix, boozing, the gym, like, is there anything that's worrying you at the moment? That could be really powerful. Anything else you guys want to talk about to do with vice optimization or student life before we sign off?
I think vice optimization is especially good. It is not talking about, oh, don't drink, that's bad, but it is like changing your mind, like without mentioning bad things, like which can trigger you do it more. Yeah, I think that's a really good point of vice optimization.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, guys. Thanks for stepping outside your comfort zone. It's actually pretty tough, and I still get a bit nervous whenever I get the microphone out and have to talk on it. So yeah, awesome, and yeah, thanks for kicking off the Macquarie Vice project. And anyone listening out there who's got access to students and wants to share this conversation, feel free to do so, or reach out about what we're going to be doing with this project. And yeah, if you want to start your own 101 Tokens get together, there's a really good service called meetup.com. And I'm going to be starting to do some wherever I am in the world as I travel around this year. But yeah, feel free to create them, and if you get 3 people, that's good, because it just gives you the opportunity to have an open conversation with someone who is working on the same stuff and becoming a better human. So yeah, peace out, guys.